Tonight, the criminal case against the founder of the now defunct Capital Bank Atoisian and three others, including CEO of Rural Cables, charged with 26 counts of stealing and laundering more than 250 million cedis from the bank.
How can you steal from yourself, Paul? How can you steal from yourself? Is that possible? Wow. Think about it. It sometimes bothers me, the kind of noise that government made to say that we took 482 million, what has come to be known as a shareholder loan. This was not money that we took.
We have details as we interrogate the charges.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready? Gasem, the nation builder, and Antarte Furniture, designed for life. He had launched his own offensive, slamming government and accusing some top government officials, including the finance minister, after 2 years of silence. Founder of now defunct Capital Bank, Atoisian, is now facing the real risk of jail time if convicted on any of the 26 charges slapped against him by the Attorney General. He and three others, including the CEO of Rural Cables, Kate Quartey-Papafio, have been accused of stealing and laundering a total of more than 250 million cedis from the bank, Capital Bank. Well, let's closely examine these charges, shall we? My colleague Malik Dabu is joining me with details of this. And Malik, the three individuals, the three others we know are Tete Nete, Fitzgerald Odonko, Kate Quartey-Papafio. Obviously, we know a lot about William Atoisian, founder of the bank. Had run it in various forms before when he used to be, savings and loans, First Capital Plus, metamorphosed into a bank, etc., etc. He's been speaking to Paul Adomotri recently, going on an offensive himself, attacking a lot of people. Finance Minister had to issue a statement to deny some of the claims he had made. So we know a lot about him. What do we know about Tetenete?
What all we know about him is that he appears in the Builders Report. He appears in the Builders Report because he and one other person founded a company, which company, according to the Builders Report, took some money from Capital Bank. And that money has not been accounted for again, according to the report. Okay. It is only to that extent that we know about him and for which reason he may have appeared as one of the accused in this matter.
There's also the Fitzgerald Odonko. He's a Reverend Minister.
Yes, he's a Reverend Minister. We know that he used to be CEO of the Capital Bank. We know that before then he was with Merchant Bank. He was with Merchant Bank before he moved to the Capital Bank. He was the CEO, and we know that he's appeared in many of the reports that have been generated through audits that have been conducted by audit firms into the operations of Capital Bank.
And we'll go into a bit more of what we knew before today in the Builders Report, which many people saw as the basis for a lot of the action government had taken. And then there is the surprise inclusion of Kate Quartey-Papafio. Yeah. I mean, until today, she's never been on a radar.
Absolutely not. Nowhere. We haven't seen her name or anything relating to her in any of the reports that have been generated, which dominated the discussions relating to the conduct of managers of these banks. We have to see what the prosecution's case against her is and what evidence that they produce relating to what part she played in all of this, which is the reason why they are citing her as one of the accused persons in the suit.
And in fact, I want to go to that first, Kate Quartey-Papafio, in terms of the charges against her. And you find that on page 7, page 6 of 7,
yes,
on the charge sheet.
Second but last page.
Yes, that has been submitted, and it's that's count 24. It's conspiracy to steal Contrary to section, it mentioned the criminal
23
offences Act.
1 and then 124 1 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960.
And then it talks about the particulars of offence. What are these?
And the particulars of offences, they say William Atu Essien, who we know, and Kit Kote Papafew, between June and August 2017 in Accra and in the Greater Accra region, agreed to act together with a common purpose to steal the sum of 70 million Ghana cedis, the property of Capital Bank.
And there's a central question that we'll try and ask the lawyers. And Atoyese himself, you hear him make that argument. He says, how can I steal from a bank I own? I found it. It's my own, it's my bank. I mean, we'll hear him, and what the lawyers will also have to explain to us.
Except also that when you are responding to him, when he asking, how can you steal from yourself? The individual directors of the bank are separate and distinct from the corporate entity Capital Bank. It is the reason why the lawyers will tell you that every company has a separate legal entity and can sue and can be sued in his own right. And it's only in exceptional cases that the lawyer will say you pierce the veil and look for who the directors are so that you can hold them directly accountable for their actions relating to the company. Otherwise, normally the company is treated as a separate legal entity which can be sued and can sue on his own right.
Still with Kit Kote Papafew, and the reason why for the others we've had a bit about them, they've been on the radar for a while. She is a reputable individual in the space of CEO. She's broken the glass ceiling as a woman.
Absolutely.
Rural Cable CEO was recently on PM Express with my colleagues on the business team, talking a lot about her own achievements there. In addition to the charge of stealing, she's also accused, together with William Atu Essien, that between June and August 2017 in Accra, they dishonestly, allegedly, appropriated the sum of 70 million, again, the property of the bank. Then also, there's a very serious charge of money laundering. Also filed against that. Did they provide...
Which is count 26.
Count 26.
And the particulars of the offense of money laundering are William Atu Essien and Kit Kote Papafew between June and August 2017 in Accra, in the Greater Accra region, disguised the sum of 70 million, knowing it to be proceeds of crime.
Okay, so that's as far as she's concerned. But as we've already indicated, a lot of the charges, in fact, all the charges, either stealing, conspiracy to appropriate the funds, abetment, conspiracy. Basically, these are the general.
Absolutely, and the total sum involved here, I just did the calculation, is 262.5 million.
Yeah, you're correct. I got somebody to double check that.
Yes, and the various sums are 8 in total. If you look at the different sums, 8.
Huge sums.
So there's 100 million here. There is.
So when they say 100 million, they either are accused of stealing, or conspiring to appropriate that, to steal that, laundering
the money, or abetting the stealing of this money.
Yeah.
Those are particularly, so they are largely 4 umbrella offenses. They are conspiracy, abetment, stealing, and money laundering. And then for each of the various sums, these counts come under them. So for the 100 million, they are charged with all these counts, 4 of them. And then you go to the next amount, which is 30 million. And 30 million, there is conspiracy to steal. There is abetment of crime, namely the stealing of this 30 million. Then there is stealing proper. And then there is money laundering. That's attempt to launder this amount of money. That's a 30 million. There's also 35 million. That's another amount involved here. And again, the 35 amount of these persons are also charged with abetment. That's Fitzgerald Odonko. Say in January 2016 in Accra, in the Greater Accra region, himself, he abetted William Atu Essien to dishonestly appropriate this sum of money, the sum of 35 million, that is, which is the property of the bank.
Yeah, and the least amount I've seen is
2 million.
2 million.
Yes.
Now let's sort of give a certain background to this. The first time we heard of the red flags, I think publicly, was with the Boulders report.
Absolutely.
Of course, Capital Bank had then been closed down as a result of many things that came up. Just give us a summary of some of the key findings then in the Boulders report that became such a huge
Let me start from the point where Atu Essien himself left off. The audio that you played in that interview with Paul Admochiri, he mentions that how could they have stolen 482 million as was alleged by government spokespersons and by the central bank. Now, if you look at page 28 of the Builders report, it says in point 3141 that by 31st December 2015, the bank, Capital Bank that is, had a cumulative 482.4 million of third-party funds which could not be accounted for from 10 institutions as follows. And they listed the institutions as City Investment, which had 15.91 million involved, CDH Services that has 16.83 million, Capital and More 128.99 million, Accent Financial Services 59.13 million, All Time Capital 171.46 million, SIC Financial Services 17.70 million, Apex Capital 1.36 million, Nordia Capital 67.03 million, and FC Loan Payment. And so they listed all of these 10 institutions, and the Borders report said by 31st December, this amount of money could not be accounted for. The total sum involved here is 482.41 million.
That's
the amount that you heard Atuesian saying in that audio clip that you played, that they could not have stolen that money. Now, the Borders report actually says that CDH Securities Limited, in a letter dated 13th December 2017, denied any placement by First Capital Bank to CDH. On the contrary, they indicated the First Capital Plus, while as a savings and loans company, we know that First Capital Plus used to be a savings and loans company before it upgraded, applied to the Bank of Ghana and was allowed to upgrade to a bank. Now, CDH, according to this letter, according to the Boulders report, wrote saying that it had no money placed there by Capital Bank, and that the only money involved was when Capital Bank was First Capital Plus Savings and Loans Company. From September 2012 through November 2013, was indebted to CDH rather.
Now here's a thing that you notice. A lot of the things that you find in the Borders report, in terms of the figures, at least doesn't find expression, at least on the face of the charges that we've seen.
Absolutely not.
Totally different figures. In fact, Kate, what to pop off here was not in the Borders report. You could see that there's some additional work that appears to have happened by the state in terms of digging into this. But Mr. Atuesian himself has publicly been fighting very recently the accusations against him in the Borders report, etc. And he maintains his innocence quite vehemently. In fact, he challenges the Borders report. He says he finds it very strange that he put those words together about him when they didn't speak to him. I want to quickly hear what he told Paul Adomotri very recently when he responded to some of these allegations against him.
And that's why, again, I get challenged. When this thing happened, I thought I was going to get sympathizers to say, that is 15-year journey, a young man. And because Capital Bank could have become a Barclays Bank in the next 30, 40 years, because I had my eye on the African market. And I was very, very surprised that I was rather being castigated. This is what
they were told you had chopped money.
Exactly. And I asked myself, how can you steal from yourself, Paul? How can you steal from yourself? Is that possible? Wow. Think about it.
Do you travel to find money somewhere?
I travel to find money. I engage a lot of people. Ray Soa, the current GCB managing director. He is at the time working with GIB London. Resoa led me to a gentleman called Mr. Goldsmith. That the gentleman was going to help us to raise about $35 million. We needed to pay 100,000 in London, 35 million euro. And we got all the documents indicating the fact that the money was going to be available to us. So we needed to pay 100,000 euro in fulfillment of condition precedent. Then the crystallization follows. As we speak today, I'm hoping for that crystallization to happen.
Did you pay the 100,000 euro?
I did.
You paid to who?
I paid to the company of Mr. Goldsmith. This is not something that we did in our individual capacities, no. We relayed it, we sent all the documentation to the board for the board's perusal.
Did you involve the Bank of Ghana in letting them know how far you're going with trying to...
We had to report everything to the central bank. Look, the day...
Have you now written to Ambrose, what's his name again?
Ambrose Goldsmith.
Ambrose Goldsmith, and said that we are demanding the 100,000 euros.
Yes.
You have written to him to demand it.
We have.
What about the Boulders advisors, which we all read?
Paul, that is probably one of the unfortunate documentation put together by a consultant. How can a consultant put a documentation of that nature together and use words like piggy bank? It's as if the gentleman had something against me, and I wonder the day I meet him, I ask him, sir, where do you know me from? Did I do anything to offend you? Because if you're doing such a report, Paul, the courtesy or the right thing to do is to tell me. Because, Paul, in finance, a debit can become a credit and a credit can become a debit based on the narration. And nobody had institutional memory more than William Atuisian because I founded it. I understood. So if you're going to talk to people who had worked with the institution for just a year or a year and a half, what institutional memory did they have to help you to situate figures?
Are you suggesting to us that the boldest advisors never spoke to you?
They never spoke to me,
Never?
Paul. Never.
The majority shareholder?
Never, Paul.
Really?
So sad, never.
Oh, but that's...
They never spoke to
very
me.
discomforting.
They never spoke to me. They never spoke to me. And I come back to the same point. It was my baby. Look, when this thing happened...
you know that boldest advisors had done some work on your bank? For the government, at the Ministry of Finance, at the Bank
When
of
this
Ghana?
thing was in the media, I was hearing figures being flying everywhere. It didn't make sense to me. So, where is the source of these figures? Because it didn't make sense.
I want to bring in now private legal practitioner, lawyer Yao Opon. Mr. Opon, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you, sir.
Also joining me is a banking consultant, Dr. Richmond Chahene. Dr. Chahene, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you, Evan.
Lawyer Opon, let me ask you, you just had Atuisian's recent interview, and it makes the point that I guess lay minds like us will ask, how can I steal money from my own bank? I mean, how is that even possible? That's the charge against him in as we've just been reading. In law, how do you explain this?
Thank you very much. Consistent with my principles, I think I will try as much as possible to caution myself not to make specific reference to the matters that have come up, at least from what we have seen on social media platforms, that they are charge sheets in which the government or the Attorney General has gone to court against certain persons related to Capital Bank. But they are matters that come up even if this matter had not come today. So people ask, how can I steal for myself? And I heard the gentleman ask a similar question, which you have also eloquently paraphrased. So the idea that a company, and in this case, a limited liability company, owns its own assets, it can sue and be sued, and is separate and independent of those who form it. Even though some say it's so established, questions are being raised concerning its applicability in terms of specific companies in recent times, but I think there will be another time to discuss this. So some have said that, and I hold the view also, that there are times that a company has to be seen as a trustee for the persons who formed it. So that, for example, shareholders need to borrow, shareholders need to find 400 million Ghana cedis to be able to meet the capital requirements of the Bank of Ghana, or let's say of the state. And the law at 3930 states that no shareholder or person can borrow this money in order to meet this requirement. So people sell their inheritance, they sell their property to use it to invest in a company for it to operate as a bank. But all you hear is that investment that the person has made becomes asset of the company, and that investor, shareholder, has nothing to do that interest is absolutely discounted when it comes to looking at the interest people have in these banks. That is where then some people may then raise the question, how can I steal from myself? And to the extent that I understand criminal law, a person cannot steal from himself. You must deny or appropriate, some would say expropriate, the asset or property of a person to the extent that when the person needs that property, and I'm making it as basic as possible, it will not be available for him. And you do so, as is argued in nearly all criminal law discussions, with intent to deprive that owner of the property. So basically, what people then argue is that, how can I invest my money to form a bank and still be accused of stealing my own money? That's one side of the school. The others also argue that once a bank is formed, the bank tries on depositors' money. And these depositors' monies that are collected from them makes the bank and its directors and shareholders in particular, or generally its officers, trustees of these depositors and other investors who have also invested in that company. And to that extent, you have a duty in law and even morally to ensure that whenever these depositors, investors, and similar persons want their money, it will be generally available, except where the state has made some regulation in relation to the extent to which those persons will be entitled to their money at any one time.
But very, very interesting thoughts. I want to quickly bring in Dr. Richmond Otiahene. Doc, you've been on record consistently since 2007 saying it is not enough to file civil charges, prosecute, file criminal charges. Now the charges are finally here. You've seen these charges, 26 of them. Your reaction?
Thank you very much, Evans. Before I comment on that, let me make a statement. What I'm saying is that the person didn't steal his own money. It's depositors' money you have stolen. Because if you aggregate even the whole amount of money they're talking about, the capital of the bank was not that enough. So it's not how can you steal your own money. It is stealing depositors' money. That is what is in question at the moment. You know, when you talk about the company law, if you start a company, it's a different thing. But when you give the license and you go and get a banking license, then it means that you are holding people's money. Your capital is insignificant, the depositor's money. So he has basically stolen people's money. It's not his capital, because his capital is not even amount to that amount. Because at that time, the capital of the bank, I think, was about 120 million. But look at the charges we are talking about. It's far more exceedingly above. So for me, that is what I think is people say I'm stealing my own money. It is not your own money. It's depositors' fund, as the lawyer has just said. It's a depositors' fund that you have stolen. So it is not your money. That one should get clear to everybody's mind. Because your capital is just about 120. And we are talking of far more exceedingly above the capital. So it's not your money.
Yeah.
The depositors' money you've stolen.
And very quickly, just a point, just a caveat there. I know you use the word stolen in general terms as in the principle, but in this particular case, we know these allegations, he's not been caught with anything yet, and that will go to court. Exactly, yes. Yeah, you were making a substantive point.
Yeah. My second point is that I think it's just only a good beginning that people would be put in charge of funds and not dissipate it as they like. I mean, I was reading the Boulders report you were talking about. One thing that didn't happen in the Boulders report, do you know that the liquidity support of 627 million, when the Bank of Ghana was doing the P&A, the purchase and agreement, there was a debt of 207 million, which GCB has to take over. I mean, the liquidity support given to him, which he used them to share, according to Boulders report, shares in sovereign banks and all the other things, and all-time finance. The GCB had to do, under the P&A, they took over another debt of 207. I mean, he hasn't paid. So what are we talking about? I'm only commenting.
Well, as I just played earlier, he contests vehemently the Boulders report because they were not, he says he wasn't spoken to. his side wasn't sought.
Evans, he could have contested it before he's coming to the air telling us this. The report came. Those of us who have copies have copies. I have copies. So he could have contested it and disputed it. But I saw it in the report that 207 had to be part of the P&A, the purchase and assumption transaction. So all that I'm trying to say that I think it's a good beginning that we are now coming back to realize that when you're putting in care of people's money, you must be very, very prudent. Use it prudently, judiciously, so that we don't have a situation whereby currently the finance minister is talking about close to 3 billion to 4 billion. If you aggregate it, it's about 21 billion, all because of malfeasances all over. So for me, I won't say it gladdens my heart. I think we are now trying to do the right thing. Let us do the right thing and see the bottom of it so that we can say we have done well. This will go a long way also to help investors. You see, if we clear this, it will help investors to say that, fine, the legal system is very transparent. People are taking for the right, people can get their money back.
Yeah.
So for me, it is kudos.
Yeah, and lawyer, very quickly on this, just quickly tell me, these are charges, say they're criminal charges. How serious are these charges in terms of what punishment they come with? Jail term?
Well, as I said, just pardon me not to make specific comments on this.
No, generally. I mean, what does the law say about these charges? They're criminal charges and they come with what? Jail term.
Just a second, but let me just also repeat some rhetorical questions that are being asked, and it's been asked before. There has been a case being made by those who matter that these banks are defunct. And a defunct bank obviously means either it's no more in operation or it's not in existence. So who is the complainant in this case? And in similar cases? And we told that property of a bank has been stolen. I think it will be interesting in the coming days or weeks, or maybe in respect of others, where we will show it will be shown that the very bank that we are told is defunct, even though a court has now determined that they are still in existence in terms of it being a company, now contesting its own shareholders and those who form it, that they have stolen from that bank.
Yeah, I mean, these are very interesting questions that I guess we'll all be wiser for once this case travels to court. But Lawyer Opon, I'm grateful for your time. Dr. Richmond Chahening as well. Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. The Success and Passion also brought to you by Gassam Cement. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready, and Antati Furniture designed for life.
Thank you, folks. On my A list today, show some love for contractor EB.